We also talk more in the studio. Let's tell you that since its creation, Ondo State has experienced a mix of political trials and challenges. Despite these fluctuations, the state has maintained its commitments to democratic governance as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution. In this report, Toyin Batire delves into the political journey of Ondo State and explores key areas for potentials.
Since its creation in 1976, Ondo State has had a total of 19 governors, 12 military, and 7 civilian, 6 of whom were democratically elected. Historically, the late Michael Adekunle Ajasin became the first democratically elected governor of the old Ondo State under the Unity Party of Nigeria in 1976, serving till 1983. A major political crisis erupted during Ajasin's bid for re-election when his deputy, late Akinyomo Boriowo, contested against him under the platform of the defunct National Party of Nigeria, NPN. The Federal Electoral Commission, FEDECO, declared Omoboriowo winner, sparking widespread violence that led to loss of lives and destruction of property. Since then, and particularly following the return of Nigeria to democracy in 1999, the political atmosphere in Ondo State has been relatively calm.
So far, so good. It has been fair and very peaceful, because when we go down memory lane, the only time where Ondo State went into political crisis, and which I believe will never repeat itself, was during the 1983 crisis. And I believe our people learned their bitter lesson from the aftermath, the remote and immediate cause of that crisis. And when you look at it over the years, our election has always been very, very peaceful.
When you look at politics in Ondo State generally, it has been a mixture of peace and turbulence. Because if we go by the experience of 1983, nobody will venture into politics. But ever since then, it has been very peaceful. I think why that has been so is because we have been having a dominant party.
Politics has fared better in Ondo State in that, the people of Ondo State are sophisticated people. They are well informed. They know their rights from their left, and they are politically conscious.
Many residents remain hopeful that Ondo State's political environment can improve significantly.
Personally, which is one of the things which I notice, is the issue of voters apathy. I believe every parent and guardians will plead, appeal, and want their wards not to allow themselves to be used by politicians to foment trouble.
The politicians themselves, because there is no politician that believes that he can lose. And after all, politics should also be a sport. There must be a winner, whether you like it or not.
The stakeholders, organize it in a very, orderly manner. The umpires, they are neutral, they are unbiased.
As Ondo State heads to the polls on November 16th to elect a new governor, residents stress that real democracy thrives in a peaceful political atmosphere where citizens' rights and aspirations are upheld, driving socio-economic progress and better governance. In Nakure, Toyin Batire, NTA News.
Back in the studio here in Abuja, we have Rotimi Oyekomi, who is the Chief Press Secretary of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Thanks for coming into the studio.
Thank you for having me.
From the last report, let's pick it up from there, about which focuses extensively on those states and what some of the respondents that we've had. What are the strategies being put in place by INEC to ensure that more people get involved in the electoral process? We've seen people talk from different perspectives: the youth, people living with disability, the senior citizens, and those voting for the first time. What can they look forward to?
Thank you very much. I think the most important thing really is trust. Do people have trust in the system? And a lot of debate has happened around that concept. And then voter education is also very important. And I think with regard to voter education, INEC has done very well, relatively, given the resources that we have. For this election, we started preparing a year ago, and throughout the last 1 year, we have embarked on a series of voter education activities. And luckily for us, we have civil society organizations like the CDD, like YAGA and all that, that have also helped us to amplify some of the things that we want people to know about. You talk to persons with disability, they want to know what will happen to them when they get to the polling units. Do we have the kind of resources they need to be able to vote? Will they be protected when they go out? Because, you know, if violence happens, persons with disability are the most vulnerable. How will they be protected? The kind of technology that we use, I mean, how is it? What, you know, will they find? How will they be able to use it? We try our best to do that. We not only have a robust engagement relationship with the media, we also use social media platforms where young people are known to frequent, to pass information. And we meet with our stakeholders all the time, including the voters themselves, the youth groups and women groups, and we try our best. We even go traditional. We engage with town criers. You know, we take advantage of market days when we know that in areas where people come maybe once every month or once in 2 months to market, and we engage in those things. And going to voter party that people talk about, you know, it's a lot of debate as well. It's convenient for people to say, oh, INEC needs to, you know, entrench trust, which we do. I always tell people, INEC does not set out to rig elections. And we don't rig elections. People need to come close to understand what we are going through. Now, conducting an election is one aspect. All stakeholders have to be involved for us to succeed. You have to play your role. INEC will play its role. And because election takes a lot of time to plan, for instance, the Ondo State governorship election that is taking place tomorrow, we released a timetable 1 year ago, and we listed 13 activities. And out of the 13 activities, we've done 12 successfully, you know, and we just have the election to conduct tomorrow. And throughout the last 1 year, we've not had any problem implementing each of these activities. And given the fact that we expect other people to also play their role, that is what will make the election successful. As security agents, the voters, the political actors. Now, voter mobilization is a responsibility of political parties. Voter education is a responsibility of INEC. Now, do political parties adequately mobilize voters? I don't think they do. I don't think so. And being the greatest beneficiary of what the gamut of all the activities is all about, I think political parties should do more in mobilizing voters to vote. And they do that not just during campaigns, because campaigns is close to the election. It's something you should be doing consciously. I mean, you have a register of voters. I mean, you have members, you organize meetings, you have wards, you have chairmen of state chapters. What are you doing to, you know, mobilize people to vote? But when you depend on INEC or others to do that for you, it becomes a problem. And I think that with respect to INEC, we are trying our best.
Prof, the CDD, going by what was released, obviously, just as Oyekomi rightly said, now have a lot of stakeholders have crucial roles to play. How much of those roles are these stakeholders getting ready for?
I think the stakeholders have been highly mobilized because there has been a lot of anticipation over the Ondo elections and the fact that the previous governor died in office, and there was a political situation that was rather complex that emerged at that time, set in process certain concerns amongst various stakeholders. And that influenced also some of the candidates that emerged, especially in the two leading parties. So the stakes are very high. And when the stakes are high, you find out stakeholders mobilize more. I do agree with the point he was raising, that mobilizing voters to come out is really the task of political parties, because they are the most important stakeholders, because they are the ones who produce the candidates that emerge from the process, and therefore have the highest stake, as it were. And they have not really been very focused on that. But I think on their own part, citizens have always had a lot of interest in electoral matters and often mobilize among themselves. But citizens' turnout will depend also on calculations they make. If, for example, a lot of citizens believe that the party that they want to win is going to win anyway, they may feel, well, there's no point in my coming out, others will come out, which is always a mistake. And what we in civil society tell parties and their members is never assume others will come and vote the way you want to vote. Just to make sure, come out yourself and make sure you exercise the mandate that our Constitution has given you. Of course, when there are issues of political violence that will discourage people, luckily we haven't had any significant problems related to electoral violence around these elections. And we are quite pleased about that, so far it's been quite peaceful. And our prayer is that this peaceful conduct of people will continue over the next 24 hours, so that at the end, everybody will be happy at the outcome of the election, and it will be a true reflection of the desires of the citizens of Ondo State.
Nick, before I come to you, let me quickly go to Oyekomi now, because shortly before we started this special broadcast on the NTA, there was this news that broke out about a substitution after a court of appellate jurisdiction gave a verdict on the Labour Party. Can you speak more about that?
Yes, there was a particular candidate that was nominated by the Labour Party. And I think there was an internal dispute about the candidacy of that political party. So an aggrieved individual went to court to challenge it. And that individual got a judgment asking the commission to accept his name. And being a law-abiding institution, we did. But the Labour Party now went to the Court of Appeal to say that they don't agree with this and went with some evidence. We don't know what they went to court with. And now the Court of Appeal has asked that we reinstate the person that was there before, which we have now done. So that was basically what happened.
Okay, now, having said this, we expect to have 17 political parties. What are the implications, or was just going to go straight to the polls?
No, they are actually 18, because we had two political parties that were restored with under court order, the Labour Party and the NNPP. Right, the Labour Party now has internal issues. But you see, this is the situation. Before you become a candidate, you must be a member of a political party. You must have been nominated by a political party after a duly conducted primary election.
Yes.
Now, it's not the first time that we are having this kind of dispute within political parties close to election. But what INEC does is that we put the political party, the acronym of the party and the logo on the ballot, so that all votes that are supposed to accrue to that political party goes to the party. So if the party emerges the winner at the end of the day, we then wait for the court to determine who the right candidate is. So, you know, we don't allow the disputes to stop us from conducting election. We just put the party and the logo and the acronym on the ballot. And when the result come out, whatever happens, you know, when the matter is eventually resolved, then we know who the candidate is.
Well, could this not be considered as a distraction, especially for the political party in question and for those who are really following them into the polls?
Well, it is a distraction. And if you observe, I think Nigerians are litigation happy. They go to court over the simplest of things. So, and in politics, I think part of the norm is for people to go to court if you are aggrieved. And we should also be grateful, because going to court is better than resorting to self-help. If people are aggrieved, the next thing is for them to take advantage of the judiciary, which they are doing effectively. So I think it's a normal thing. It's provided for the Constitution, and people should continue along that path rather than resort to, self-help.
Well, Nick, before we reconnect with Akure, I'd like to bring you in as someone who was in charge of voter education. How much of positive reflection have you seen from your time to what we have right now? Were people really understanding the concept of management of information properly? We were here together for the Edo election. There were different results flying around, and of course, at the end of the day, it ended up, there are some similarities. How do we get to manage this to prevent unnecessary and undue celebrations in some quarters before INEC will finally announce it?
Yes, I think there are two things I have learned, and some of them are reflecting. You cannot have enough voter education. But also, I think what we've been doing over the years is impacting. If you looked at what happened at the town hall, and I was copiously taking notes, and with your kind permission, I'll speak to some of the
let's
issues.
have them quickly before we go to Akure.
One of the issues, one of the speakers, I think one of the academics, raised, and the most elderly person in the town hall raised, was the need for voters to vote wisely. And the idea is to shun this propensity or tendency for people to take money and sell their conscience. That if you do that, you would get your right to hold whoever wins election in courts to account. And you would have lost, your right to demand that good governance is delivered to you. So I think it's sinking. People are realizing that the way to go is not to take a pittance from politicians and get your vote sold. And at the end of the day, you cannot hold that politician to account, and he has no obligation towards you. So to that extent, I think that what we've been doing over a long stretch of time is paying off. And of course, one of the academics there also recognized the fact that part of the misinformation and the disinformation is coming from the media that is unregulated. It's an all-comers media. There are no gatekeepers. It's not run by professionals. It's not also run by people who subscribe to certain canons. They are not professionals. So anything goes. But also the other way to address that is for those of us who are on the part of the EMB, that is ANEC, those of us in civil society, to also be in the social media and dominate it and be proactive. Proactive in the sense of anticipating what these people are likely to ply or to put in that domain. And to now, proactively put the proper information on that domain. And I think the Commission has been doing that, and it recognized the need for it, which is why it started the Annex Citizens Contact Center, where you have young people who are working round the clock, taking questions, providing information on different media platforms. And civil society organizations themselves are recognizing the need to have young people out there who can, proactively put information concerning the electoral process, and which makes it then difficult for purveyors of lies and misinformation and disinformation to thrive. So I think that is a challenge for us, and we need to recognize that it is a major threat, it's a potent threat, and we must rise to that challenge. And it is not a task just for the election management body, it's a task for all of us who are stakeholders in the process. The media, traditional, civil society, and so on and so forth. We have a responsibility to make sure that those denizens, those characters who are messing us up, you know, are stopped in their tracks. We have that responsibility.
Mr. Rotimi Oyekomi, Nick raised a very salient points there about the unregulated media. In years past, we've seen different registered names and groups online posting results, misleading the people. Have there been sanctions? And if there are, what are the punitive measures on ground to prevent that we don't have a recurrence in Ondo?
Well, I don't think that there have been sanctions.
Why?
Well, I don't know why there are no sanctions. People expect the government to move. There are laws, there are cybersecurity laws that, are intended to hold you accountable if you post certain things that are not correct, malign people or assassinate somebody's character. There is law of libel. So if you feel aggrieved, you can take somebody up. And what we have been seeing consistently is that Nigerians are taking advantage of these laws to challenge some of these people who use social media. But one thing I want you to also know is that these things are done deliberately. There are people who are actually hired to do the kind of things they are doing. That throw mud at somebody, bring them down, and they use all manner of things. They are commissioned to do these things. But what INEC does, is to respond quickly. First, we are proactive with what we are doing. We proactively provide information well ahead of time. And then when we see anything posted on social media that is not true, we quickly debunk. And we also try to anticipate what people are likely to do. I like to refer to them as familiar forces because like we are having Ondo governorship election now. One of the things we had anticipated is that somebody will say we should remove the rec because it has happened all the time, and it happened. And of course, when it happened, without providing any proof, we said, no, we cannot remove the rec. Give us evidence that this rec has committed any offense that you think is weighty enough. And they couldn't provide. So we said, no, we don't remove recs, resident electoral based on complaints, just complaints about little things.
Issues, yeah. Okay, let me hold your thoughts there and go over to Ondo State now in Akure studio because we're still going to come back to have you land on this particular discussion where Professor Afe and Dr. Abimbola are in Akure studio. You've heard what the panelists in Abuja have spoken to. I would like you to, in particular, this problem of disinformation and misinformation. You talked about Prof. You talked about some of these students and youth who might not really be interested about going out to vote for the election. And some people would say that when they're not out voting, they will be on social media doing all kinds of things. How can we manage this situation?
Eliminate those characters totally, but we can reduce the activities. We have forces that are anti-people. We have also forces that are pro-people. So the most important thing is that INEC must be on top of the game, and security agents also must track them down. Nobody can tell me that it's impossible to track at least few of them. If Nigerian government can track somebody in Kenya without leakage, I don't want to mention anybody's name on there, but I believe that our security, they are competent. They should be able to do all these things. So I am of the opinion that conscientization and good governance, if you are performing, during the UPN of 79 to 83, free education for all. Nobody will say that they want to give you palliative until you belong to world executive. So if things are going round, at least relatively, people will be committed to the system. People are not, the patriotism now is at the lowest ebb. We want to be sincere with ourselves. So government at all levels, at the local government level, at the state level, let people know that there is hope in this country. The youth today, they don't believe that they have hope. That is why people are trying to find fraudulent way or genuine way of traveling out of this country. And I believe that we must fix this country. We are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. If our youth are disenchanted with the system, even though those people that attend school, you see people, illicit words. being paraded by our youth in the university. You see most of them using vehicles that the vice chancellor cannot use. Nobody is asking them questions. Nobody is asking them questions. Where did you get this money from? Lifestyle auditing. Somebody who is not a millionaire, whose fathers are not millionaire, even though some of them, their parents, they are as poor as myself, they are riding vehicles of worth of 10 million, 20 million. Nobody is asking them all those things. So people now believe that when you disobey the rules with impunity, nothing will happen. We must stop that. We must stop that. So we must, at all levels, even though in our institution, at the family level, even though at the community level, ask people questions. Where did you get this money from? If somebody sit down at home all through the day, and in the night you go to eatery and be spending money, millions of naira, people you ask questions. So people now believe that you gain more in perpetuating illegality in Nigeria. We should put a stop to that, because if you continue like this, the future is bleak. And I believe that all of us will have stake in this country. Not everybody that can travel out of this country permanently. There are some of us that the weather there, we don't like it. So because of us, Nigeria must be fixed. So how are you going to fix Nigeria? It's through the youth.
Well, let me take you on this. As a teacher of different courses in mass communication, we live in a day and age where what most people want to go into is content creation. Sometimes, most times, it's being used to drive the wrong information. How can we use the election coming up on Saturday as an avenue to do content creation, but supporting the system to make the electoral value and system more credible and bring in the believability of the people?
Thank you very much. I think we need to take a look at the political structure, political party. So if we want to encourage the youths to do content creation that will be beneficial, that will be profitable, that will contribute to the development of our electoral system, I think one of the key areas here will be strong party structures, strong party system. In Nigeria, we are having a kind of a democracy that is not driven by serious political party system. What do I mean? In Nigeria, if you take a look at what we have, in any democracy, political party, apart from the rule of law, party system is a strong pillar where parties are driven by ideologies. But in Nigeria, it's like after the First Republic, Second Republic perhaps, we no longer have political parties. What we now have, they can best be described as mere platforms upon which people climb to assume power. Because in this country today, it's like all the political parties, you cannot differentiate between one and the other in terms of their ideology, in terms of their programs. Even when manifestos are drawn, you will see that it is the candidates of the parties that are now bringing manifestos to the public, to the electorate. In those days where we have political party, it is the party that will bring up the manifesto based on the ideologies. And the party will have strong system, training young ones to believe in the party, in their programs and policies. I remember in between 1979 and 83, under the Unity Party of Nigeria, one of the governors in one of the states, the party queried that governor for deviating from the programs of the party, even when that you won election based on our party, we sponsored you, and how come you are now deviating from our programs in what you are doing in government? That is no longer to say, today now if you become a governor, your party at the state level is in your pocket. If you become the president, the party at the national level is you are the leader and they subscribe to you. These are one of the things, and that is why when parties are not strong, you cannot expect that they will drive the electoral process. So the youth have seen that our politicians, they will jump easily and conveniently from one party to the other. There are some politicians that within 1 year, they would have jumped ship for about 3, from one party to the other, just looking for how to get power. And that is one factor. The second factor is the monetization of our politics. You will see that those who have emerged as candidates now in this Ondo election, they are the ones that can best tell their stories. how much they have spent. Pre-primary matters, during the primary and post-primary, even trying to settle some aggrieved persons, and also settling party leaders. All these things are there. And that is why, you know, I said it earlier that the parties, their campaign, they didn't come to the media. They are no longer patronizing the media because they know that they don't need to waste their money on media, in the media. They are now preparing to go directly to the voters, either before or during the election. And before, they will try and induce them. During the election, they are also planning to induce voters. I think these are the areas the youth should now focus on, to create content that will expose the negative activities of politicians, and that will also encourage their positive activities instead of the nudity and all the rest. Today now, the youths, they just create anything on the social media. They believe that even our value system has gone down to the extent that they tell us now that what says is nudity, what says is pornography, what says what people want to watch is those mundane things. I think we should begin to drive the process to the extent that they will know that there is value for hard work and there is reward for hard work, and hard work pays, and that anything you get without hard work will not last. These are some of the things that we can use. So in this election, I'm looking forward to a system whereby by tomorrow, because all these things, the content creation we are talking about, should have happened before tomorrow, but even as at tomorrow, let the youths, even when they go to polling booth, to polling units, whatever they see there, they can create content that will drive the electoral process, that will even help INEC to take informed decisions on how to improve on the electoral system. So rather than giving to frivolities. So by and large, although we cannot, I'm not losing hope, we know we can get there, but the road is still a bit long for us. But let's keep hope alive, and let's continue to have faith in this country. I've made up my mind that I'm not going anywhere. This is our country. We should stay here and build it. And not everybody can run away. But government seems not to be looking at this, that our able-bodied men, our best brains, whether as fresh graduates or even experienced doctors and professionals, they are leaving. I think this should be a cause of worry to us, so that we can continue to drive the narrative that we say that we cannot go and succeed elsewhere when we have not succeeded at home. So if we succeed at home, we will have more value for even those who travel abroad. But when we don't succeed at home, they treat us as second-class and third-class citizens.
Obviously, Dr. Abimbola, and I'm sure you actually have so many things to say about what he has raised there. But let's also let our viewer out there know that registered voters in Ondo State total over 2 million, which represents a diverse demographic that includes youth, middle age, elderly, and persons with disabilities. Toyin Batire chronicles these statistics and their impacts on the November 16 Ondo governorship election.
Research shows that Ondo State ranks the 19th most populous in Nigeria and the 25th largest by land mass. With a population exceeding 3 million, the state comprises 18 local government areas, with its capital in Akure.
As at 2006, we've not conducted another census. What we have for Ondo State is 3,441,024. Then the breakdown, May, we have 1,761,263. Then female, we have 1,679,761.
The state has 203 wards and 3,933 polling units spread across its 18 local government areas. The total number of registered voters stands at 2,053,061, representing a diverse group of male, female, youth, middle-aged, elderly, and persons with disabilities.
The harmonized total number now of registered voters with the old registered voters is now 2,053,061.
Ahead of the governorship election, the Electoral Commission urged all stakeholders to stay vigilant and committed to upholding the integrity of the process, promising to maintain the highest standards of transparency before, during, and after the election for a free, fair, credible, and inclusive outcome. In Akure, Toyin Batire, NTA News.
All right, Toyin Batire there giving us some interesting information about the statistics. Obviously, we'll still be looking into some of them here as we'll have them prepared. But before then, preparations are in top gear by relevant stakeholders, including the electorates, towards a hitch-free November 16 governorship election in Ondo State. Ifeoluwa Omosule spoke with a cross-section of residents in Akure on their preparedness for the election.
Elections provide the electorate with the crucial opportunity to select their preferred candidates for leadership, playing a significant role in shaping governance. Recent statistics, however, show a trend of low voter turnout in Nigeria, which many attributed to fear of electoral violence, distrust in the electoral body, and unfulfilled promises from elected politicians. This decline in voter participation has generated concern, prompting various organizations to implement sensitization programs aimed at encouraging civic engagement.
People should come out. It's our future we want to determine.
We want the maximum participation of the people. We want people to come out to exercise their franchise. In doing that, they do it peacefully, and we don't want them to be induced.
During its recent distribution of voter cards, the electoral body INEC announced that 64,273 permanent voter cards were issued from a total of 89,777 delivered to the state. Some residents across the state who expressed confidence in the ability of the electoral body to conduct a free and fair election on November 16 pledged to turn out in large numbers and participate in the process.
We are 95% prepared for the election. Because we have gotten our PVC, getting everything ready, because this is the time for us to choose whom is eligible for us, to rule us.
We are ready to vote, and we believe that we vote for the right person.
I lost my PVC about 2 years ago, but I've gotten a new one now. So, and my children also, they have gotten their own. And so we are going there, at least, to exercise our franchise.
It is expected that voters will adhere to electoral guidelines and remain law-abiding before, during and after the governorship poll. In Akure, Ifeoluwa Omosule, NTA News.
All right, Ifeoluwa Omosule with the reports there on the level of preparedness by different stakeholders concerning the election that we are looking forward to in Ondo State on Saturday. And of course, earlier we also spoke about some of the statistics as being previewed and reviewed by correspondent Toyin Batire. But back here in Abuja, let's take a look at some of the interesting things that we need to know concerning this particular election that concerns Ondo State. Before we take a look at the final list of our candidates, it's interesting, we have 17 of them, but that is not the particular one we want to take a look at now, because much emphasis seems to have been placed on those who will really play a key role in this election. Now, let's take a look at number of registered voters by gender, because we have 1,034,006 male registered voters for the election, while for the female, it's just slightly below what we have when it comes to the male participants, or those that will be voting in this election. Now, what interesting statistics I really want us to look at is the total number of registered voters by age. Now, this is where Prof and the rest of the panelists in the studio will really have to come in, because interestingly, we have, now let me spotlight it so that it makes it better. Yes, surely. Now, let's take a look at this particular age bracket of 18 to 35, which is representation of 35.41% at 726,944. That is massive when you compare it to the bigger picture that we have in the total number of those that will be voting in this particular election. Take a look at the middle age. It's 721, 36 to 49. Elderly who have been speaking out loud concerning building a state that they can leave to the younger ones, just a fraction of 21.4%. 1%, while the old people 70 and above, 162,619, represents 7.92%. Now, taking a look at this particular statistics here, it's the particular group that people have been talking about have a crucial role to play. Now, let me start with Prof. You have trained generations of students, but yet most of them who are still in this particular age bracket do not really realize if they don't own Nigeria and get involved in the electoral process, who else is going to own it?
I think it's interesting what has happened with the politics of demography in this country. My own generation, when we were young, Yakubu Gowon was 31 years old when he became the head of state of Nigeria in the First Republic. Some of the ministers were in their 20s, the others were in their 30s. So we had a demographic profile in which the younger generation were playing key roles in driving the democratic process. What has happened in the last 20, 30 years, however, is that the profile of those in governance has become steadily older. And that has been a disaster for the society, because it means the most active, the strongest in your society are no longer playing vital roles in driving the democratic and economic process of the country. And part of the reason why that has happened is that they've been offhandish. They feel, well, politics, they will always play tricks, and then they have this negative attitude that, oh, they will always rig. But they play tricks, they will rig if you are not there to stop them. And what we have tried to do over the years, I've taught political science for about 5 decades, is to get them to understand that it is your responsibility to be there as an active citizen, as somebody with civic consciousness, to make them do the right thing. And part of doing the right thing is also a fairer distribution of power in society. A society in which power is focused on those who are 65 and above is a society with a problem, because they are not thinking of tomorrow. They are thinking of their today fading out soon. And those who have decades in front of them are not there to place what needs to be on the table, what needs to be on the agenda, the key decisions that will decide or drive the country towards a better future. I think, unfortunately, we haven't done sufficient advocacy towards the youth for them to realize that in a democratic process, people don't give you power. You go out and actively engage the process and take it as a right, following the rules that have been set out for it. This really should be the most important strategic objective for this country, to convince younger Nigerians that they have to be more active citizens, they have to be there on the political arena, and while on the political arena, they have to do the right things to make sure we improve the quality, the integrity of our electoral process, and basically improve and mature our democracy.
Well, Oyekome, let's take a look at another interesting figure here. I'll still be making reference to this particular group, which Prof actually talked about, the older people and, of course, the elderly. Now, these particular two groups, they seem to be more vocal in terms of assuring the younger ones and making them believe in the system, that if we that were older than you can come out and want to do this, why won't you join in what directly affects you? But sticking with those from age 50 to 69, Prof rightly pointed out a particular thing, that there seems to be a shift in terms of those who really want power. Now, how do we strike a balance to ensure that this group and this group can possibly work together moving forward to own this electoral system? Because after all, when they say the old rig, they are not the ones on the field. It's usually people from here to here.
Thank you very much. I think that the debate around power in this part of the world is that, the winner takes all. And unfortunately, we don't have institutions that can guarantee the kind of governance that we are looking for. What I think should happen with respect to young people and part of the elderly is for there to be strong institutions. If you look at our country, the debate that has gone on is that due to lack of strong institutions, some people are able to engage in impunity. And when they engage in impunity, it becomes difficult to stop them. And because it's difficult to stop them, the young people that Prof talked about are feeling helpless. They don't know what to do. But for me, the attitude, just like Prof said, is not to be on the back seat. The attitude is to move forward and see how they can take advantage of the current laws and seize the initiative, to change the narrative. And changing the narrative cannot happen without strong institutions. That is extremely important. If you don't have strong institutions, one cannot say it enough, you can't have a good society. Take corruption, for instance. Nigeria seems to be a bit helpless about corruption. People talk about corruption, we know there's corruption, but how to fight corruption becomes a problem. How do you fight it, And even the organ created to fight corruption sometimes expresses frustration about what is going on. And again, when people assumed or taken in for corrupt cases have to go through the process of being tried, there seems to be some bit of slowdown in the judicial process. So it's a whole range of things. However, I think that we should not lose hope. We should continue to, hope for a better Nigeria. And young people should realize that if they don't fix Nigeria, they will grow up and have children, and it will impact on their own children.
All right, Samoe Komi, let's go over now to our Akure studio. Of course, the duo of Professor Afe and Dr. Abimbola are still there. And of course, I would like you both to weigh into some of these interesting statistics that we have. I know you've spoken extensively about the role the youth have to play, but particularly for both of you still involved in teaching of this particular age group that we've talked about, which is the youth. Now, if only they are aware that they constitute the significant percentage of those who will be casting their ballots on Saturday, perhaps they will be more interested in this process and own the process for their own time and possibly for those looking up to them.
I think they are aware. It's only they are pretending. And because of patriotism is lacking, because I believe that youth supposed to be the political laboratory of a nation, where ideas are baked and where implementation of idea is being put together. In the First Republic, Nigerian Student Union, in fact, they are the one driving some government policies. Before they announce it, they will also look at those policies and they will come out with their own position paper. But today you see people that want to be political vanguard, because during the European days, there is what we call a youth arm of that party, that people like Ebenezer Babatope were baked. And you find out that those people, they also play their role. So we don't have them now. So political parties, they should have strong youth arm. Let me just tell us this. About a few years ago, let's say about 10 years ago, the youth leader of one of the major political parties, I don't want to mention it, happens to be somebody over 60 years old. And the youth, they didn't revolt against that one. So when you belong to a youth arm, or you are a committed student union leader, that is where leadership is being formed. So I want to appeal to us that our youth, because each generation will produce their own leaders, whether we like it or not. Their generation will produce their own king, they produce their own pastor, they produce their own imam. So they must not pretend as if they are less concerned. It's an appeal now. No matter the disservice that you believe that the nation has done to you. Some of them believe that our leaders today, they were given free food when they were in the university. Some of them bursary and whatever. But if there is a concerted effort, you can wrestle power from them. During the last time, when you contested to be president of Nigeria, how they score abysmal votes. So they should pick good people among themselves. If somebody is 30 years old, Spiff, who was River State governor during Gowon time for 9 years, the old man is a traditional ruler in Bayelsa now. He was 21 years old when he was a military governor for 9 years. And there is record that he performed. So we have intelligent youths. We have youths that can compete with anybody, anywhere in the world. We've seen our students traveling outside, performing better, but they must not believe that Nigeria will not allow them to ply their trade. So they should change the narrative and make sure that their destiny is in their hand. All these old people, they will go one day, even though one by one they will leave. But their own generation, they must not surrender this country totally to all these our leaders that are less concerned about their welfare.
Professor Afe, thank you very much for that quick submission. But Professor Jibrin Ibrahim in the studio here, as we round off our discussion, particularly with you, because of some other engagements with the CDD, what words of encouragement, motivation would you give to this particular group of people, as an elder statesman, as a senior citizen that you are, to believe in the system and, of course, own the process? Your concluding thoughts?
I think the first thing is that the attitude among young people that it's all bad, that it's all manipulated, is not based on facts. The fact of the matter is that Nigerian elections have been improving over the past 10 to 15 years. It still faces key challenges, but on the whole, there is progress. The reason why there is progress is that different stakeholders have been playing important roles. The Electoral Act has improved significantly. Citizens' capacity to mobilize for free and fair elections has increased over the time. The media and civil society have improved their performance. So there are forces at play that are leading to the gradual improvement of the system. And the last category to really catch up, come in and play their own role are the younger generation. So it may be a game changer if a significant proportion of the youth develop this attitude that nobody will fix our political problems if me, as a young person, I don't come in and play my own role. That's really the attitude we need to develop. And if we can develop that attitude, you'd be shocked how Nigerian elections will continue to improve in an even faster manner than it has been doing so far. I think that spirit, that my role can be a positive force in bringing positive change, is the attitude that is necessary to adopt to move our country forward.
All right, Professor, I'd like to appreciate you for your thoughts on this particular statistics. Of course, it's still going to be a reference point over the next few hours as residents of Ondo State go to cast their ballots. We'll be going for a short break now as we move on the program to allow Professor continue some other engagement with the CDD as it continues to monitor the build-up to the election, and still come back to discuss more concerning the 2024 Ondo State governorship election. We'll be right back. Right, yo, welcome back from that quick break. And, oh, forget about that. That's just Prof, I'm walking out gently from the studio. Remember, he's given so much words of wisdom and encouragement to this particular group of people that are concerned in the Ondo State governorship election. But let's go back now to Akure. Before we go to Akure, remember that Nick Dzang is also in the studio with me in Abuja, as well as Rotimi Oyekomi. But back in Akure with Dr. Abimbola, yes. I would like you to speak to some other things apart from the words of encouragement that we've had from Professor Jibrin. Let's take a look at some other interesting statistics as per those who will be involved. Now, number of registered voters by occupation concerning this particular election in Akure is quite interesting to know that by occupation, the largest group of people that would be involved, oops, that's just a quick mix there by me, but just a quick, bum. We're going to get back there. Oh, yep. Almost. Oh, yes. Now I'm back at where I need to be. Good. Now, we're talking about a number of registered voters by occupation. Now, taking a look at what we have from artisans, for those involved in business, civil servants, it is still this particular group, but now given a different nomenclature. Taking a look at this. Students, 694,938, representing 33.85%. Now, going back to Akure, Dr. Lawande, this group, unique group of voters, are those you interact with on a regular basis. Just like Prof rightly said, they should stop being pretenders and get involved in this thing. How much of the teachings have you made over the last few years to ensure that these students can, even though not everyone will be a direct politician, most people want to go into businesses and diversify, how can we make them realize that the earlier they start being involved in the democratic and electoral process, the better it will be for them and, of course, Nigeria?
Thank you very much. On our part, as teachers and mentors for these students, we've been doing quite a lot. Recall that on campus, there are different layers of leadership for the students. First, at departmental level, as former head of department, we encourage them to be democratic in selecting who lead them at the departmental level, then at the faculty level, and at the student union level. That is within one campus. Outside the campus, there is National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS. Then we also have other associations on campus, which are town-based, religious-based, or tribal-based. They also do elections. And we also have some professionals among them, like those who are in the media, the campus journalists, they also do elections. We are patrons to some of them, and we encourage them. So it's a leadership process, it's training ground. But it is a sad commentary to let you know that these youths, they are also looking at what is happening in the larger society, that politics is not really for service in Nigeria. You bear me witness that the stakes are just too high for political offices in Nigeria. What I mean is that the perquisite of office, that is the benefits of political office, the attractiveness is just too high. And that is why people are falling over themselves. They want to do every means to gain power. Because if you get into power in Nigeria, it's like it's a ticket for you to amass wealth unregulated. And that is why some of us have been clamoring that let us begin from the legislature and de-emphasize the issue of full-time. Or somebody being in the National Assembly or State Assembly is going there as a job. In those days when we ask children that, what do you want to be in life? They will say, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lecturer, I want to be a professor, I want to be a lawyer. Today, if you ask an average child now, he say, I want to be a politician, as if politics is a profession. So it is because of the attractiveness of the office. That is what is discouraging the youths. So they themselves, they are also experimenting even on campus. It's a sad commentary now that some of them, they now distribute Indomie on campus to win election for student union or for any other position. They are just copying their parents outside or the politicians outside. So we are doing whatever we can to let them know that politics is for service. That when you say you want to serve people and they give you their trust, they give you their mandate, it is incumbent on you to serve them. But today, you know that whoever gets elected in Nigeria is not the one serving us. We are the ones serving them. We are the ones that will buy their newspapers, fuel their cars, feed their wardrobe, take care of them, and yet they will be collecting salary and also awarding contracts, and they will be collecting kickbacks and all the rest. It is when we begin to de-emphasize the attractiveness in political offices that we can really encourage the young ones to know that it is for service. And that time, the job of INEC will be made easier, because INEC will no longer have desperate politicians who want to get power at all costs. Because you know that if you don't win, it means that people are not ready for you to serve them. You go back home. Today, from primary to election to anything, everything is litigated. Litigation, just like Mr. Oyekomi said, that every election in Nigeria is disputed, whether shadow election or general election. But by and large, we are improving, and we'll get there one day. But one thing I still want to register is that the political class should be very careful. They should know that everything has a time limit. They cannot continue to enjoy this honeymoon for too long. A time is coming that the citizens themselves, they will rise up and take the freedom. As I said earlier, freedom is never given, it is taken. It will get to a time that people will reach the point that they can no longer progress, that people, it's like everybody is just waiting for his own turn. Is it my uncle that is getting elected? Is it my in-law? Is it my brother? When he or she gets elected, we begin to say that, Nigeria is fine. But if my relative is not there, I am not there, we begin to accuse the politicians. But the time is coming that we'll reach the brick wall and we come back to factory setting. But all the same, we have many things to do in this country. Structurally, things are not working fine, because the resources of this country are concentrated in the center, in Abuja, and also in the state capitals and the state. And that is why everybody wants to get to the state capital and get office there, or get to the federal capital, Abuja, get to national and get office there, so that they will have access. But if we liberalize and begin to give more resources to the periphery, to the federacy units, I think the rush and the quest for political office will also come down drastically.
All right, there, but back here in Abuja, let me connect with Oyekomi here, Rotimi Oyekomi, who is the Chief Press Secretary with the Independent National Electoral Commission. Some issues have been raised, Rotimi. Right. I know in in the last few years, there have been concerted efforts by the Independent National Electoral Commission to strategize and synergize with anti-graft agencies to ensure that issues of vote buying reduced to the barest minimum. But taking a look at the narrative there from Ondo State, where even as said by Dr. Abimbola, that at the lowest level that you expect the future leaders to start emerging and practicing representative democracy on campus, inducements even go into preparation for departmental election. How do we address this problem if it's already deep-rooted to the tertiary institutions?
Well, we have a platform called Interconsultative Committee on Election Security. For a long time, INEC did not involve the anti-graft agencies like the ICPC and EFCC. But when the issue of vote buying became quite prominent, the Commission decided to invite these two organizations to be part of the fight against such vices. And since they came on board, they have been quite useful. They have moved against vote buyers. In the last couple of off-season governorship elections, some arrests were made, and as we speak, the prosecution is ongoing. And I think it's a sad commentary, the way this vote buying is going. It's a sad commentary on the kind of situation we have found ourselves. Because believe it or not, we discovered that in some instances, some voters expect to be paid to vote. They expect some kind of gratification. And the question then arises, how do you educate this kind of people? What drives that? Of course, a lot of suggestions have been made. Some people say it is poverty, some people say it is greed and all of that. But individuals have reasons for doing what they do. But the point is, if you do what is illegal, there are consequences for it. Now, for the politicians, I think that vote buying became prominent because INEC's system also improved drastically. You know, before, it was easy to manipulate election through other means. But as INEC began to improve its processes and procedures, the politicians realized that it is not easy to manipulate the system. They now began to buy votes. If you ask some of them, they will say that, look, they are buying votes because votes are important, because it's not easy to manipulate the system in INEC. And since the introduction of the beavers, for instance, that does not allow voting by proxy, it becomes very difficult for people to harvest permanent voters' cards, for instance, and take them to polling units or give them to anybody and ask them to go and vote. And if you cannot be accredited through your fingerprint, they will say give them incident form. That has effectively stopped that kind of thing. And that is why vote buying has also gone up. But I think, like I said, that with the involvement of the anti-graft agencies, things are moving in a different direction. We may not achieve 100% deterrence, but the fact that action is taking place, the fact that the EFCC is arresting culprits and prosecuting them, will then tell those who are perpetrating it that, look, it's no longer the same business, it's no longer the same. They have to sit up and change. And I think we'll continue along that path.
Well, Oyekomi, let's go over now back to our Akure studio as a round of this conversation in the build-up to the election in Ondo State. Professor Afe, we've spoken extensively about the demography that we have, the statistics that we have in terms of number of registered voters by age. But Professor Afe, quickly, as a round of our conversation, I want you to speak to the role of the youth that they have to play, like an advisory role in letting them know, especially those that might still have to wait till the break of the day to either decide whether they're going to come out. Because if we look at the total number of those expected to come, of registered voters by age, surely at this number and this number, it's really going to be huge if at the end of the day we witness apathy.
No alternative to democracy now. It's still the best form of governance all over the world. And INEC, they are doing wonderfully well, most especially in Ondo State in the last 1 year. I changed my polling units. I did it effortlessly at the INEC headquarters on my phone. And even though the day I was to collect my PVC at the Akure South local government, I spent less than 20 minutes there. It was given to me, no error. So INEC, they are doing their own. The youth, they should make sure that they take over leadership. If you want to take over leadership, you cannot just be complacent. It's an appeal. If somebody is 20 years old today, in the next 10 years, you are going to be 30. Youth is not a permanent position that you are going to be. In the next 30 years, a youth of 30 years will be an elder. So don't let them use their own, this is your own time now. Make sure you turn around the situation in this country for better. Look at Macron. Macron was made president of France less than the age of 40. So we can still repeat the same. Let there be concerted effort. Let there be a way you can look into the university, those people that participated very well when they were on campus, maybe as leaders of a professional organization, Law Society of Nigeria, or student union leader. Put heads together and make sure that present formidable people. We are appealing to those state youth now. If you stay at home, it's a disservice. You are not helping yourself. You are compounding the situation in the society. We are appealing no matter the level of performance of government now, because people are disenchanted. There's no doubt about that. But you are still an Ondo person. You are still resident of Ondo State. So please, we are appealing to them. They should cast their foot. When you are participating, gradually things will be changing. You cannot say, you cannot be because of one reason or the other, you refuse to vote. That will not help the situation. We are appealing to them, let them cast their vote when you are in numbers. Even though the governor, the governor that we are open for, or the governor that we emerge, we listen to the youth. And when they know that the youth are voting, they will listen to you. And if they refuse to listen to you, present your own candidate. We have so many political parties.
I'd like to thank you, Prof, for your timely and, of course, Oh, Professor Afe, I'd like to thank you for your contribution and, of course, your insights on the role that the youth have to play concerning this particular election that we're looking forward to in Ondo State. Professor Afe is of the Department of History and International Studies at the Adekunle Ajasin University out there in Akungba Akoko. While I also like to appreciate Dr. Gbenga Bimbola, who is the former head of Department of Mass Communication at the Adekunle Ajasin University, also in Akungba Akoko. Thank you so much for your time. I would really need to round off our discussions here in the studio. Surely in the course of the election, your expert opinion and analysis will be required. But back here in Abuja, let me start as we conclude this session of the special broadcast for Ondo election with Oyekomi. Some issues have been raised, Oyekomi, and as we move on now, because we know some of these people that might not really be interested in coming out to vote in the election on Saturday will be needing, well, should we say, a reminder of the crucial role that they have to play. Or what do you think?
Yes, I think the first thing I would like to tell the young people and all the good people of Ondo State is that the Commission has put every necessary measure in place to ensure a free, fair, credible, and inclusive election. I know that some people say out there that the process will not be credible. I want to assure them that the process will be credible. With the introduction of technology, especially the beavers, there will be no voting by proxy, and it will ensure that only the people of Ondo State will determine who becomes their next governor. Anything outside that is not true. We have made all the efforts to ensure that. And we have also assured them, I'm also assuring them now, that security will be provided. The security agencies, with the police as the lead agency, has promised to secure the environment. And we will also make provision for persons living with disability. When they come out tomorrow, they will experience a lovely time with us. So all measures have been put in place. And again, apart from the beavers, we are also deploying the INEC resolving portal. Forget about what you have had in the past. The beavers, the IRF is going to work, and you will see as the presiding officers from the polling units upload the results at the close of voting at 2:30 upward, you will be seeing live how these results are, getting in there, and you'll be able to view them. But of course, we need to also state that IREV is not an electronic collating device. It's just like what you have in the stadium, the scoreboard. We have a scoreboard, and two clubs are playing. When one team scores, it's reflected in the scoreboard. If the other team equalizes, it also reflects on the scoreboard. So it's like a cause and effect thing. That's exactly what IREF is. IREF waits there. When you put something, it takes it and displays. And when you go in there, you see it. That's what IREF does. So we want to assure them, please take advantage. Don't waste time. Go out, and you will be glad you did.
All right, I'd like to thank you for those words of encouragement. But we cannot just sign off on this conversation without bringing Nick, just in the nick of time, to give us some words of encouragement and, of course, the reason why people should really go out and participate in this electoral process, Nick.
Yes, I had said earlier on that one of the challenges that needs to be addressed is that of early opening of polls. And one of the participants in the town hall said she was going to vote for the first time and she wouldn't want to be disappointed. And part of the disappointment, some of the persons in the town hall mentioned, is this tendency for them to go to the polling units and then the INEC officials are not there. So I think that the vendors need to take their responsibilities seriously. They should take the ad hoc staff to the polling units in good time. The security agencies should also play their roles professionally. They should be impartial. They should be neutral. And by the time you have everybody playing his role, I'm sure the process will be invested with a lot of confidence and trust.
Well, Nick Dazang, I'd like to thank you for your time, and especially you out there for sticking around with us and, of course, watching our special broadcast for the 2024 Ondo State governorship election. It's been a very interesting conversation in the studio here with the guests that we've been able to bring to really weigh in on some of the issues that might make or mar the election. I would like to sincerely appreciate Nick Dezanga, who is a former Director of Voter Education with the Independent National Electoral Commission. Also, Rotimi Oyekome is the Chief Press Secretary with the Independent National Electoral Commission. He's been able to really clear the air on so many issues, particularly the substitution that occurred a few hours ago with one of the parties that will be having a standard bearer in the Ondo State governorship election come Saturday. Also, Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, a senior fellow with the Center for Democracy Development, also joined and weighed in, brought in his vast experience into the electoral process and how we can make it better. Remember also that we joined our Ondo studio where we had Professor Afe and of course Dr. Abimbola and my colleagues Jude Abugu and Ayodeji Ogunshaki in the town hall where they were able to interact with different groups of those who will be involved in the election on Saturday, particularly those with disabilities, the young and the elderly, and of course Tayo Osho in the Situation Room. That's been a contribution for the opening session of the 2024 Ondo State's governorship election. I'd like to sincerely appreciate you. My name is Ayodeji Makinde. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'd like to thank you once again, and remember, session begins again on Saturday, D-Day, when sunshine will shine on Ondo State.